Now is the time we're going to give you a quick update on our General Hospital and West Campus feasibility study. So, uh, as we know, after 3 years of community engagement and technical analysis, the feasibility study was completed in April and submitted to the Board of Supervisors. The full study is available for download on our project website, hicpla.org, on the General Hospital Feasibility Study tab. We have the English language study and appendices, and we have the Spanish, and now the study has been translated into Spanish, so you can download and view those on our website. We also have a space for you to leave comments and feedback on the study. So please take a moment and submit a comment card with your thoughts about the study. We will collect those and share them out with the team that is taking next steps on this project. I wanted to report back last night was our final community at large meeting for the feasibility study. And that was last night, 5 to 7 p.m., hosted via Zoom. We also were so excited to bring some of our guests to an in-person live stream at the Medical Center campus. In total, we had 131 attendees via Zoom and 10 attendees in person for our live stream. If you were unable to join us yesterday, if you missed part of that meeting, the meeting was recorded, and the materials, including the presentation and the recording, will be posted on the HiCPLA.org website in about a week. You'll see here, this is the website screenshot, including the tab General Hospital Feasibility Study. The resource library is where you'll find documents for yesterday's meeting as well as all previous meetings. So if you want more information, this is a great place to log in and get that information and stay connected to the project. I do have a very exciting announcement. I'm going to invite my colleague, Ben Feldman from Supervisor Solis's office. Ben, are you available?
He's joining right now.
Rosa, I think you are also with us. Is that correct?
Can you hear me?
There you are, Ben. Sure can.
Hello. Sorry, I was switching devices, so I'll turn off my own echo. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and thank you so much for putting together this slide. We have some very, very exciting news, which is in the state budget process. For some general background, it's a big negotiation between the governor and the legislature, and we're at the point where the governor announced his budget, and the legislature on, what was it? Last night, the night before, came out with their unified budget between the Assembly and the Senate. And in that unified budget includes $50 million for the General Hospital redevelopment project. So that is huge news. We are deeply grateful to our partners in the Assembly and the Senate. We're holding our fingers tight. We're very helpful. It's not done until, the dollars are in our hands and the governor has signed it, but this is very, very good news for everyone. So good reason to go into the weekend with lots to celebrate. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you so much, Ben. Yes, that is such exciting news. The Office of Supervisor Solis has been advocating at the state level for funding for the restorative care village, as well as the General Hospital reuse. And the good news came through this week that $50 million, as Ben mentioned, is in the budget at this time for the General Hospital reuse. So that is really, really exciting. Obviously, we're just thrilled about the next steps and the opportunity and potential of the General Hospital and West Campus project. So thanks for that update, Ben.
Anytime with good news, I will run to you, Heather.
Wonderful. We'll take it all. Good news preferred, though, definitely. Thank you so, so much. All right, next up, we've just got a quick little update. Not really new information, but just an opportunity again to visit some of your questions and share with you some highlights of the next step in the General Hospital and West Campus initiative. And that is going to be provided by Doug Cohen, who is responsible for the RFP process. Doug, want to join us? Oh, and I should update that slide now that you have a new departmental title, and I will make sure we take care of that by next meeting.
Thank you, Heather. And I apologize for the poor connection here. I'm going to have to keep my video off. We had a great meeting last night, and essentially we have initiated our RFP process. And the first phase of the RFP process is actually to engage discussions internally as to what our strategy is for the RFP. But essentially, the RFP, just to back up, is a document that'll detail the project requirements. It builds in all of the expectations from the community, from the county, and the stakeholders involved in this in the development site. I wanted to spend a little bit of time just reinforcing the difference between a requirement and an expectation. A requirement is where we build in the minimums, the minimums in terms of how the proposals from the developers are going to be assessed. They have to have a certain minimum standard to even qualify. And this not only involves the capacity to do the deal, but also to address, again, the minimum requirements for things such as housing and contracting. The expectations is where we start to build a real separation among those proposers. And this is just the idea, is we want to challenge the developer community with how they come about proposing for the entirety of the build out. And so the strategy that I'm talking about is something that internally will take place over the next 6 to 8 weeks. We will then have a break in activity where we step back and engage the developer community. And then we will come back and finalize the draft ahead of the actual posting of the RFP. I'd like to actually advance to the next slide. There's a timeline here that kind of breaks down a lot of the talking points that I'm addressing right now. The RFP release in fall of this year, we're estimating it'll be probably September. So here we are in June, and at this time, what we're engaging in is how are we going to present to the developer community a platform by which they can clearly see what our expectations are. And again, our expectations is that they will sharpen their pencils and they will come in not only with best practices for cost, but also best practices for two other very significant areas: quality, and quality would be, and with respect to, let's say, the affordable housing, what is the mix? How aggressive can that affordable housing be? So quality is a quality of life standard as well as just the quality of build. And then the third very, very important thing is the timeline. We want to make sure that the developers are presented with expectations where they can clearly see they're going to be assessed on how they can deliver this quality in as expedited a delivery period as possible. This all takes time to really put this all together. And we're expecting that we're going to have about a 4-month period to really finalize the draft of the RFP. This blue area, the middle stage, is where the developers now have seen the RFP, and let's say that would be late September, and then during the course of probably another 4 months, they're going to be preparing their proposals for submission. And in that period of time, we'll also have some fine tuning through Q&As that are available to the developer community. The idea is as we advance through October, November, December, and into January, in late January, which is the winter of 2023 here, that's when we would expect to be having the date where all the submissions are due. The next and final phase of the RFP process would then begin. And that's when we get into the review of the proposals, the selection and non-selection of the proposal teams. And then the most important piece of all of this RFP process is when it culminates in its returning to the board for the authority to, in fact, select the developer and then engage in a series of agreements that would launch the entitlement process that goes forward to the build out of the site. And so we can advance to the next slide, Heather. A key component of all of this is our participation with you here at the HiCP. And we stepped into, there's kind of a handoff that's going on between the body of work that's been going on for nearly 3 years now that engages this very thorough community engagement piece. But there's a structure to it. And we've been provided the luxury of stepping into this structure that's been provided not only by the foundation, but also in conjunction with the supervisor's office and the CEO's office. And it's an extraordinary structure. It's a tremendous benefit that we're stepping into. And we want to take advantage of that in a way where we can include the participatory role of the foundation in the drafting of the RFP, and then also a second point of contact where we provide a participatory role in the selection process of the developer. And so we're working right now internally with county council and the guidance that we need to actually formulate that process, because it is in fact an unusual process to bring in community engagement into these two areas of the selection process. And I will be available for any Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Doug. As always, we greatly appreciate, the time you spend with us and your real intentional commitment to our community inclusion in the process. So we've shared these slides at previous HiCP meetings. Obviously, Doug just kind of covered all the material, but just to reiterate, we're in this RFP drafting phase, and then we're moving into an opportunity where HiCP, the members can join a subcommittee to have a very specific role in helping review the proposals that will be received around the January timeframe. The nomination process to participate as a member of that subcommittee will be opening this month in June. So stay tuned. I believe we'll be having the application process and form. I hope to get out to everyone next week, and we'll be making an announcement about that again at our July meeting, so that anyone who is interested can self-nominate to participate on the subcommittee. Any questions for Doug at this time? Wow, Doug, I think you've done it. You've come to enough meetings now that all the major questions have been answered. So I think we're doing well here. Any final comments or thoughts from anyone in our any of our participants? Oh, there's Miss Vivian. Hello, Vivian. Please
Hello,
go
good
ahead and
morning,
ask your
everybody.
question.
Yes, I would just like to know, with regards to the HiCP subcommittee, how many participants are going to be able to join this committee? And as I know that right now we've got a great new members coming in from our JA community, and of course, we would like to participate as well. So I'm wondering if there's a cutoff to the amount of people that will be able to join this committee.
I'm going to jump in right now, Heather, on that. So
Right.
thank you for the question, Vivian. We don't have a direct answer to your question right now. I mean, just in full candor. What we're doing is we're setting up a process that, quite frankly, we can't point to a template for it. So what we're looking at is how do we create a sub panel that truly will have an effective role in the participation of what is essentially the overall recommendation and selection of developers. What we've come up with internally is what we're referencing as a sub panel. And a sub panel of what? Well, a sub panel of HiCP applicants through HiCP. So the foundation is providing us the platform, if you will, for this application process. The question you asked was how many, how big? The reason I don't have an answer is because we're leaning toward in discussions that we need to have at least one member of a subpanel per the number of proposal teams, developer proposal teams that we expect. So it's going to be a limited number. But it's also one of the limitations is also the level of commitment that's involved in being a member of the subpanel. Each member of the subpanel is going to have to be able to review every proposal, of the relevant section for community benefits assessment in each of the proposals that's offered by all of the developers that are proposing. So if we were to have 5 or 6 developers, we would have to have at least 6 members of the subpanel plus a few alternates. If we have 8 or 10 proposals, we're still going to need a couple more beyond that for alternates. The idea, though, is I wanted to at least give you kind of an idea of the size of the subpanel. It's not a 50-member subpanel, for instance. It's just not going to be that. We do have to work out some, and we're involved in working out the details of this. So it's a great question. I want to be able to give you a direct answer as soon as possible on that, because the question you're asking is exactly the questions that we're trying to sort through right now.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent question, Vivian, and I hope that clarified a little bit. The role of the subpanel is like that. This HiCP membership is where to come to get your updates and your information and contribute your thoughts and reflections on the process overall. The subpanel role is going to be very specific to reviewing those proposals and providing critique and comment back. So it's going to be a more limited, focused group with a pretty significant set of responsibilities. So we are trying to right size the committee, and as Doug mentioned, the committee members and alternates, so that we have enough people on the committee to really fulfill on the responsibilities, but aren't so overwhelming to ask so much of members of our community in terms of contributing their time. But more to come. We will be, like I say, opening up the application process, taking in the applications from individuals, and then as we start knowing more and receiving the proposals in, then we will be able to kind of confirm participation on that subpanel. We have a question from John. John, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was actually going to join the subcommittee just to sort of hear out some community voices on behalf of my company, Prime Store. We're going to be submitting an RFP or submitting in for the RFP. So it sounds more like I should not kind of try to do that. So I just kind of wanted to ask, for aspiring developers, how do we sort of stay plugged into the process from here? Where do I go to, pull documents, ask questions? Is there someone here I should be taking direct contact information from, and where should I go from here?
Well, I'll jump in right now. So first of all, John, Prime Store is a fantastic partner in one of our projects here in the county. It's been a joy to work with them, and we're going to continue working with them through the construction piece on the Vermont Manchester. We certainly don't want you to be part of a subpanel. Okay, then no one else is going to hear me say that. So John, nothing personal. We want you as a proposer, and so I think you understand where we're going there. And just for
Definitely.
All joking aside, what John and I are talking about here is one of the very keen areas in this proposal process is we want to bring in community engagement in a way where we don't open up the process to dispute. And so, for instance, John represents a developer who may be interested in proposing to the deal, and we certainly want to have an encouraged platform to encourage the development community to, in fact, bring in their proposals. But we wouldn't want, I'm getting some feedback here, but the idea here is a developer would not want to be part of the subpanel because then it would constrict the developer from actually proposing. Now, to answer your other part of your question, where are you going to be able to get information moving forward? I think we're going to have, we internally again, and we're just putting this together, John. I think we're putting together a really ambitious schedule for Q&A during and throughout the process, the RFP drafting and posting process for the developer community. I think what we're hoping to do is to put together, quite frankly, a more aggressive outreach and contact component with the developer community throughout this whole process. And that's the idea here. And again, I'm going to talk to beyond the conversation right here with John to the wider audience, what John's question really is going to is the developer, in order for us to encourage the developer community, one of the things is the more certainty we can bring to the developer community during the process, the period in which they're preparing and creating and drafting their proposal, the more certainty we can bring to them during that drafting process, the more the developer community can be motivated to sharpen their pencils, if you will, to bring about more creative solutions. So what we're hoping to do, John, is, and again, it's a little bit unusual, is we're hoping to put together points of contact, Q&As during the finalization of the RFP. That in and of itself is a little bit different than typical. Typically, as you know, you typically would have a Q&A and mandatory walks during the posting period. We're actually going to try to not only have those typical points of contact, but also have an additional one prior to that in the finalization of the draft. And then, of course, we'll have actual Q&A rounds during the actual posting period to help you in fine-tuning the preparation of your proposal.
Thank you so much, Doug. And thank you, John,
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Yeah, we're so excited to have a member of the developer community come and join us at this Health Innovation Community Partnership table. I think you can see from our participation and attendance today, we have a very passionate community that loves their medical center, that loves their neighborhoods, and really wants to make sure that this, all the developments here on campus really reflect the community spirit, the community voice, and integrate nicely with our neighbors. So very excited to have you join us today, and hopefully we'll see more of you in the future. We're going to wrap up with one final question for you, Doug. Reverend Ray asks, what are the qualifications likely to be for someone to serve on the subcommittee? What are the qualifications and or qualities that you would like to see in members of the subcommittee? What should they be prepared to be able to do?
I think that's a great question to ask me because I really don't have an answer here. Okay. And that is so, Reverend Ray, what we are absolutely that this is a front burner element for us. Let me give you a little background. So what we're attempting to do, we want to bring the expertise from the community into a review process of what the developer's proposal, the section of the developer's proposal will be that addresses how they're building out the community needs. So there will be a section of, first of all, the RFP is going to be a very complex proposal process. The proposals from these developers is going to be a significant document in and of itself. It will have sections. In that section and compartmentalization of the proposal, one of those sections will be, and I'm just for sake of making progress in a conversation, give it a label, a community benefits assessment. So that community benefits section will in fact be the section that incorporates all of the needs and expectations beyond the requirements of all this 3 years of community engagement. And we want, quite frankly, experts from the community as to what the community's needs and expectations are in the review of that section. So it's, and I don't want to paint myself in a corner here, but we're not necessarily talking about engineers and architects here, even though in finality, we're talking about a development proposal in entirety. This section is really about the expertise that these panel members would have in recognizing how the developer is addressing the community's expectations. And so I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think thank you. That's very illustrative, Doug. And as basically you've said, I think there's more to come. This is a really unusual opportunity that doesn't really have a lot of track record. So we're building something to really ensure that those local representatives and champions of the community and the community voice and the community needs have this space to participate in, like I say, and be able to make that commitment of time and effort, because I think it is going to be a pretty significant commitment. So I think those are some of the things we'll be hoping to illustrate through the self-nomination process. But more to come, Reverend Ray, and you will definitely be on our mailing list to receive updates as we have them. All right, with that, I'm going to conclude this portion of our meeting today and move on to the next segment. If you need more information, you're always welcome to reach out to me and also to Doug's colleague, Sophia, to get more information on the RFP process and stay in touch. Once again, always visiting our website, hicpla.org, where information of all types resides about this project and others on the campus.